Well, greetings, guitar fanatics. Let's get right down to it. If you're here, you're probably a lover of all things guitar like I am. Playing guitar gives me so much pleasure, and I'm sure it does to you, but the flip side of that is learning guitar is hard. And sometimes it seems like the learning is happening at the pace of a glacier. When you're feeling stuck or you're feeling that there is so much to learn, it can be pretty overwhelming, and it can really suck some of the fun out of your playing. But fear not, because today I'm going to give you 5 awesome ideas to accelerate your learning. And here's the really great thing. None of these ideas are going to require you to learn more scales or charts or diagrams. What it will require you doing is fun guitar-related activities that happen to be great for your playing. Thanks for checking out the channel. Please like and subscribe. If you want to support the channel, please check out the link below in the description about my pentatonic mastery course. And there's some links to great deals on gear for the musician at your life in the holidays, even if you're buying a gift for yourself. Okay, I'm Charlie Long. Let's play some guitar. So what are these 5 ways to learn lead guitar faster? As I said earlier, none of them involves more scales or charts or exercises, but all of them are organic ways to improve your ear and your musicality, to increase your vocabulary and your familiarity with the instrument. You know, some of the best learning, the skills that make you sound more polished and professional, well, they don't always come from learning yet another scale pattern. Let's get started with the first of these 5 ideas that are going to make you not just a better guitar player, but a better musician. Learning accelerator number 1 is to play melodies by ear. And when I say melodies, I mean every little piece of music that reaches your ears. Maybe you're sitting around at night watching television and a commercial comes on that has a familiar theme. Grab a guitar, try to play it. If the news program you watch has a theme, grab the guitar, try to play it. If you're driving in the car and you hear a catchy song, when you get home, pick up your guitar, try to pick the melody out by memory. As I'm making this video, we happen to be in the middle of the holiday season and I'm being bombarded with Christmas songs. And there are some great melodies there. Pick up the guitar, try to play them by ear, by memory. You know, there's a real danger in getting too reliant on tabs or sheet music, and that danger is not developing the ability to hear something in your head and to translate it out through your fingers onto the fretboard of the guitar. Here's a quick true story. I was teaching several years ago at a guitar camp, and I was doing a class on ear training. There was a guy attending that outwardly seemed like a pretty guitar player. He could play scales pretty fast, and he could do some tricks like sweep picking. But when I called him to the front of the class and asked him to play the melody of Happy Birthday by ear, he couldn't do it. I remember being kind of astounded that someone who seemed to have a lot of technique had zero ability to play a simple melody by ear or by memory. Can you imagine the struggles that could cause a player like that when they try to improvise? Being able to create melodies, in addition to the flashy technique stuff, is so important in the ability to play good guitar solos. Let's try something. Let's take the melody to a holiday classic like Silent Night. This is a melody that even if you don't celebrate Christmas, you've probably heard since you were a small child. Now for me, it wouldn't matter what key we were going to play this in because I do this kind of thing so much, but let's play it in the key of G. So let's play a G chord. Let the melody come into your head. What note does it start on? Now, I'm not a good singer, but I can hear in my head the melody. Da, 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 da. And if I go to the root and sing the major scale, da, 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 I can quickly determine that Silent Night starts on the 5th note of the major scale, G major. That's a D note. Once we've got that starting note, we should be off to the races. When you get a simple version of the melody workout, why don't you pretend you're a famous singer and try to start adding some phrasing like a singer would. Or sometimes I'd like to do something crazy like pretend I'm Derek Trucks and play slide without a slide. And that's very similar to the process of creating melodies when you're improvising or writing a solo. And the more you do it, the better and better you're going to get at it. If you really want to form a connection between your head, your hands, your heart, and your guitar, you cannot practice this way enough. Let's move on to accelerator number 2. Accelerator number 2 is to do more with less stuff. Let's be honest. I'm guilty of it. You're guilty of it. Probably every guitar player on the planet is guilty of it. We're obsessed with learning more stuff, more scales, more modes, more arpeggios. Do I even need to mention more gear? It seems like guitarists, rather than squeezing every bit of useful information out of a particular topic, they're always wanting to move on to something else. That constant moving on can be a real detriment to your playing. It's super common for a student that has started to make a little bit of progress say something to me like, man, I need to learn the modes of the harmonic minor scale. And my first thought usually is, you can't even do anything cool with the pentatonic scale yet. You haven't memorized the modes of the major scale. To which the student would probably reply, yeah, but those things are boring. I heard a great quote once by a famous motivational speaker when someone who was attending one of his speeches came up to him afterward and said, life is just so boring. And this guy said, no, life's not boring, you're boring. If the pentatonic scale is worthy of a lifetime of practice and study by players like Eric Johnson, Eric Gales, Joe Bonamassa, Jimmy Herring, Scott Henderson, then maybe the average guitar player should try to extract every bit of goodness out of it before moving on to something else. Here's a quick checklist of things I think you should be able to do with the pentatonic scale before you really can say you know it. You ought to be able to move between all the patterns seamlessly, ascending and descending, anywhere on the neck of the guitar. You ought to be able to play lots of cool sequences, from Hendrixy thirds and fourths to ripping cascades like Eric Johnson, Eric Gales, and Joe Bonamassa. Along with the beat, you should be able to easily play through the circle of fourths, staying in an area of a couple of frets, which means you'd have to be able to identify which pattern of the pentatonic scales to use as the keys change on the fly without pausing. Can you play pentatonics with 3-note per string shapes? Do you know how to superimpose different pentatonic scales to get modal sounds like Lydian and Dorian? Did you know there's a simple trick that allows you to play a minor pentatonic scale and have all the notes be from the Superlocrian or altered scale of a particular root note? Do you know any pentatonic scales that have been slightly altered, like the dominant pentatonic? Or any exotic pentatonic scales, like the Hirajoshi? These are just some quick concepts that come to mind immediately. Let's go back to that circle of fourths thing, because it's super important and it's the kind of thing people do not practice enough. It's one of the best ways I know of to really get fluent with a pentatonic scale or any scale or arpeggio you're trying to learn. Here's the drill. Let's say I start on C minor pentatonic and I play from the low E to the high E. Now, up a fourth from C minor would be F minor. And there's a shape right here without moving a single fret. Up a fourth from F minor would be B flat minor. And I've got a shape right here again without moving position. Up a fourth from B flat minor would be E flat minor. And again, I can play E flat minor without changing position. And we can go through all 12 keys like this, and we only have to move a fret or two in any direction. It's a great way to practice, and I promise it will accelerate your fretboard knowledge exponentially. Now, we're talking about all these things with one simple scale. Can you imagine what your progress would be like if you approached every topic with this kind of detail and got everything you could out of a concept before moving on? Well, speaking of that, let's move on to accelerator number 3. Accelerator number 3, listen to lots and lots of different guitar players and different kinds of music. I'm speaking from personal experience here. It's so easy to only listen to your favorite few players and your horizons kind of shut down and you can get stagnant. This was happening to me a couple years ago, and I made a real effort to start listening to newer instrumental artists like Plenty and Intervals. And it completely changed my songwriting. Now let's face it, I'm of a certain age. But by listening to these newer artists, I went from writing stuff that was kind of dated and sounded like classic rock without a singer to sounds that are much more modern and progressive sounding. I was listening to that stuff so much that one day I was doing some writing and these chords just kind of popped out. And I didn't even take the time to identify what chords I was playing. I didn't have to because I had so much melody and music floating around my head from listening to all these new players. And you can get great ideas from anywhere. I might hear Brad Paisley do something amazing in the country realm one day, and hear something incredible by Jimmy Herring in the jazz fusion world the next. I'm not going to beat this one to death because the concept is pretty simple. Keep your mind and your ears open because you never know what you might stumble across, and it could make a real difference in your playing. All right, that leads us to accelerator number 4. Accelerator number 4, steal licks, then adapt and embellish them. Plain and simple, music is a language. We learn to speak our native tongue by listening and imitating. And you're never going to get fluent in a second language without listening, imitating, and trying to have conversations with other people. We also learn to express ourselves by watching people's mannerisms and listening to their vocal inflections. Well, we can and we should do the same thing with the guitar players that we admire. There is nothing wrong with learning other players' licks and phrases. Where we really get into a problem with learning licks is learning a lick but failing to really make it our own. And the way we make a lick our own is to adapt it to other grooves, other keys, or to take that lick, change it around a little bit, and create several other licks of our own. Let me give you an example of each. So here's an extreme example of taking not just a lick, but pretty much an entire solo and repurposing it. The great Steve Lukather played a classic solo in the hit song Rosanna, and it went something like this. Now, the solo of Rosanna was in the key of F. But what if we take that solo and we play it over sort of a bluesy groove in F minor, something like this? Now, we'd want to play A flat in our licks and runs rather than the A natural of F. So A is the major third of F. A flat is the minor third. And we'd have to take that cool major pentatonic blues scale run and move it up 3 frets to convert it to minor. But it would totally work. Check this out. Now, an example of taking a lick and making it your own might be something as simple as this. Now, the great John Petrucci played an amazing solo in a song from the early 90s called Another Day. And the solo that starts off something like this. What if we were to take one of those bends, actually it's the third bend where he's bending B up a whole step, and do something more dramatic with it, like this. Or what if we were to add a couple of tapped harmonics in there after that big dramatic bend? I think you get the idea. Take a cool lick, learn it, and then just start experimenting, see what you can come up with. On to our last accelerator, number 5. Accelerator number 5, record yourself often, both audio and video. Okay, this is pretty straightforward. You need to record yourself a lot. If you're just sitting in a room alone, playing and practicing, it's pretty easy to fool yourself into thinking you're sounding awesome, and that might not be the case. I got a big slap in the face some years ago when I went into a studio to record a ballad that I had written. I'd been doing a ton of practicing, but I really wasn't recording and listening back very often. Well, I went in to record the actual song. I did a take and I thought I had crushed it, but we listened back and it was me that got crushed instead. My vibrato over this dramatic, slow ballad, it sounded awful. It was too fast, it was too narrow, and I ended up having to scrap the whole recording session and go back and do it again at a later time. Now I record myself practicing constantly. I'm always aware of things like, are my bends in tune? Is my time feel in the pocket? Is my vibrato in time with the song? Does it have the correct width, the correct intensity? It's also a great idea to video yourself and watch the various aspects of your technique. Do your fingers look relaxed? How about the rest of your body? Are your movements economical? Zero in on your picking hand. Make sure the movements there are what you want them to be. You can learn so much by observing yourself, and don't be surprised if you have a, oh crap, I'm doing that moment. Okay, if you spend time with these 5 concepts, I'm willing to bet your playing is going to start to sound much more professional and polished. And other than stealing some licks, you don't have to learn more stuff. You just need to go deeper and get more awareness of the stuff you already know. Thanks for stopping by the channel. Please like and subscribe. We're putting out more cool guitar content every week. As I always say, work hard, play hard, have fun, and never stop learning. I'll see you next time.